Hello, I am Zachery from Theology Gaming, and this is my first ever long-scale video about an actual game, because I do write a lot about them, but I usually don't show people actually me playing them. So, it's probably a good idea that I show you, because I really like this Darkstalkers Resurrection that came out, which is a re-release of Night Warriors Darkstalkers Revenge / Vampire Hunter and Darkstalkers 3, which has a much cooler Japanese title, Vampire Savior. So let's get right into it. It's going to be a tutorial that will try to go into the basics of the game for anybody not familiar with fighting games. And from there, I'm going to go into probably more advanced tactics and that kind of thing. And I don't purport to be very good at any of it, but hey, what are you going to do? So I usually pick Rikuo, who is also known as Aulbath in Japan. A lot of these people have dual names. We'll also get to that at some point. Maybe not in this video, but in later videos. Alright, so first thing you want to do is check the options. So you're in training mode, right? You want to make sure that your combo is actually going to hit. So if you go into dummy settings and then you check here, you'll see that there's options to change what the computer's doing, whether it's, whether your opponent's just standing there or crouching or jumping, etc. There's lots of different ways to mess around with it. Now, the one that you want to have on most of the time is standing, and then you want the dummy guard to be auto. Now, what auto does, if you see here, is I will try to attack, and he'll guard. See? The whole point of that is that it doesn't combo if I press that staggered. Now, that will combo. The reason being is that means if I hit this first hit and I hit it with exactly that timing, that will combo. So that's what you want to happen. So when you're practicing, you don't want to be doing this, right? If you have auto off, you won't block it, and then you'll get the bad impression that this will actually work, which it won't because of the timing. Now, that's a whole different thing with variable blocks than canceling and such, but we'll get to that. Anyway. So there are other settings you can do, like you can have a dummy grab escape or tech roll or advanced guard. We'll get to all these. But for the very basics, you'll probably want to put on SP Gauge Infinite. Always put on Turbo 3. Turbo 3 is the tournament standard. Turn attack data on, so you can see how much damage everything's doing. Key input, I have no idea what this is. Dark Force, you want a normal. And Gloomy Puppet Show, that's for a specific character. As for key input, you should always put it on, if you can. That way you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll be able to see all your inputs, like here. See, I'm messing around. And on the right, you'll be able to see how much damage you're doing, how much recoverable damage you do, and how many hits you're actually getting in a combo. Now, as for the last part, you want to check your display settings, I'm pretty sure. So, when you see settings here, right, you're going to look in view filter, right? And there's different ways. You can make it look widescreen. You can have stretched. You can have it look like an arcade cabinet if you so choose. Now, in terms of tournament play, I believe you're supposed to just have a normal view. That way you have it in the 4:3 box and not 16:9. Because if you have it like that, then it's going to be a little weird. Because tournament format is going to be 4:3. So stick with that with the borders. I know many of you want to play it in HD and all that stuff, but that's not how it goes. Now, in terms of filters, you can have it look crisp, you can have it smooth, but we're going to leave it off. Also, tournament standard scan lines. You can choose to have scan lines on or off if you want. I prefer not to because I just don't like the way scan lines look on an HD TV. They look awful. As for high resolution, as far as I know, high resolution only changes the portraits in the character select screen, and they look kind of awful, so I just leave it off. Alright, so now for actually playing the game. So you'll see here I have Rikuo, and we have Jetta on the other side. Now, for those who don't know how to play fighting games, you have your 8 directional buttons. Jumping will, if you press up, you'll jump. See there? If you press diagonal up or diagonal back, you'll jump back or you'll jump forth. There's also crouching. Neutral is just, you'll just stand. If you just don't press anything on the, D-pad or joystick of your choice, you'll just stand there. Now, in terms of moving back and forth, I mean, you can kind of see all the inputs here. For fighting games, you have, at least for this one, you have 6 buttons, and I'm going to use the traditional fighting game terminology to describe them. You have jab, that's your light punch, as you might see at LP. You have medium punch. In this case, Rikuo's hits twice, but we'll get to that. You have... Oh, MP also is called strong. So, jab, strong, fierce, short, forward, roundhouse. So that's your short, or your LK. That's your forward, or MK. This is your fierce, or depends. Usually HP is the rendition, and then you have roundhouse, which is your strong, your strongest attack button, which is all the way on the right. Now, usually most arcade joysticks kind of have all the punches in one row and all the kicks in the bottom row, so that's the optimal configuration. But if you're playing with a controller, obviously you can't do that, so you'll just have to figure out and improvise. Sometimes they have 3 punch and 3 kick buttons, but they're not really necessary for this game. So we'll get into some other stuff too. All right, so the difference between Darkstalkers and a lot of fighting games is that Darkstalkers is really fast. If you've watched any match videos, which I implore you to do, you'll see that people are moving around or they're sliding. I'm dashing. That's double tap forward, double tap back. Everybody in this game can move really fast, and that's part of the appeal of this, is that it's really fast. So, to demonstrate... Oh, see, I missed that one. But Rikuo here, whom I like playing, has a lot of interesting tools. So most of his things are that he can react to people in the air. He doesn't have an anti-air attack, because in this game you can air block, which changes a lot of the tactics that you'd do in a Street Fighter game. For example, you'd usually like Shoryuken or something, right? But in this game, not so much viable. So like this move, which is a Dragon Punch motion, which is forward, down, down, forward, and then punch. Okay, so, I mean, on the left it looks kind of messy, but you get the idea. And Rikuo can also do that by just tapping back twice. But Rikuo has a lot of good tools to deal with people who jump in. His air normals are really good. You'll want to use these normal attacks a lot in this game. This is not a game where you just kind of spam special moves and expect to win. You're going to want to use your normals, because all the normals in this game chain into each other in what is known as either the Hunter, because that's a game it was introduced in, or the Magic series. Now, take a look at the buttons on the left. So okay, so let me show it again. So the blue is the light punch, the yellow is the medium punch, and the grayish white is the high punch. So you could chain all 3 of those together. Now that doesn't usually happen in most games. Now because of this, you can basically chain the lightest button to the heaviest button in order when you're playing Vampire Savior. So for an example, so there, I did light punch. I did jab, short, forward, and then roundhouse in a row while crouching. So you can chain the lightest button to the heaviest button, but you can't interchange it. So for example, I can't chain this to light punch. See? It won't even let me. If I want to chain roundhouse to any of the other buttons, I can't, because roundhouse is the strongest button. You can't go down. You can only go up. However, like, I could press all 6 buttons in a row. It doesn't work, obviously, for Rikuo, but just for example's sake, right? See, I pressed all of them in a row that I could, except for heavy punch, because he does this uppercut thing, which, you can't really chain anything after that. But I can't chain roundhouse to anything else. So that's the key. You want to go up. You're basically going up from lowest to highest in ascending order. But you can skip buttons in the sequence if you want. So the optimal combo for Rikuo, let's say he gets in a jump in, right? Oh, well, I did that bad. That's the optimal combo.